Alright, what is going on guys? Gino Checker back in for another video today, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys some techniques in order to increase the width of your back and actually stimulate more of the lats during your back workouts. Now there are a lot of mechanics that you have to take in mind when it comes to back training in order to put more emphasis on a certain part of the back musculature. So when it comes to back width, you actually have to pay a lot more attention to the lats. And the lats have certain functions, muscular functions, that you have to keep in mind when it comes to your form and exercise execution to get the most stimulation out of every single exercise that you have in your program. So without further ado, I'm going to be going in depth on the biomechanics and movement patterns of certain back exercises in order to get the most out of your lat development. When it comes to back training, there are a lot of muscles being stimulated. The trapezius, the lats, the rhomboids, the teres major, and even a lot more muscles come to play when it comes to the complete back musculature. But if you're struggling to either feel your actual lats being stimulated or you have trouble growing the lats, now there are certain tweaks that you can apply to your exercise selection to put more emphasis on the actual lats. Now keep in mind, this is not something that you should do for every single back workout, since there is definitely some sense to making it a complete movement as you're seeing me perform it right here. But by throwing this in as either a pre-activation method or as a separate day where you focus solely on back width training by isolating the lats, you will start to feel more activation and thus potentially stimulate some growth to create a wider back. The main function of the lats is shoulder extension, which means you have to put your arm across your body when it's out in front. This means that in order to isolate the lats, you need to perform, well, just that, shoulder extension. So you should focus on maintaining that position and that movement pattern as properly as possible and not let scapular retraction, which is one of the functions of the traps, take over the movement. Now let's shine a light on a couple of exercises that I've personally selected that made a huge difference to how my lats are firing right now, which has given me some back width in return. So let's start off with the pull down. What I want you to focus on right here is keeping the scapula depressed. Now the moment you include scapular retraction into the movement, you're putting emphasis on the trapezius, which is in the middle of the back, and the rhomboids, which also act to retract the scapula. So by minimizing the involvement of retraction, you're keeping most of the tension on the lats. The second thing that I want you to focus on is performing shoulder extension. Now this may sound easy, but we're often very easily forcing our shoulders into external rotation by letting our elbows flare out to our sides. Now this will take the focus away from the lats and put it onto the various other muscles in the back musculature. Now the lats insert all the way down into the back alongside your lower back muscles. So by focusing on keeping the elbows in front of the body, we're keeping shoulder extension in there as maximally as we can, ensuring maximum lat stimulation. Now again, this will force you to lighten the weight, since you're more than likely going to fall back into your old movement pattern if you're using a weight that's too heavy to keep these principles fully in motion. But you'll notice right away that the contraction feels a lot different and actually feel the lower part of your lats, which most likely has not been activated quite well for a long time. Alright, so the next exercise is the dumbbell row. Now for the dumbbell row, I want you to focus on pulling the elbows towards your hips. This exercise is often performed way too heavy to actually put the most amount of emphasis on the lats and is more shifted towards the traps, while it can be an amazing lat builder if performed correctly. Instead of pulling towards your abs or your lower chest, pull the weight more towards your hips. Again, if we're looking at the function of the lats, we should be performing shoulder extension. And you can see the difference in activation right here, which is the way that I always used to perform dumbbell rows personally, and I never felt anything in my lats. So by performing it this way that you're seeing right now, I'm feeling more in my lats, I feel a better contraction, and I'm actually getting more out of the exercise in the form that I wanted, which is to stimulate the lats. Second thing that I want you to focus on is keeping your body upright. To keep the most amount of tension on the lats, keep yourself as upright as possible with the hand that you're stabilizing yourself on. If you're allowing your body to travel forward and use a lot of swinging and jerking, you're not ensuring a full contraction and stretch, since you're also using a lot of the lower back to simply make the movement possible. So minimize bodily movement if you want to get the most out of the exercise in terms of lat activation. Now again, this will definitely require you to use a lighter weight, since performing the exercise this way will make it extremely hard. You're very inclined to use other movement patterns during the exercise, which will take away from the isolation and thus stimulus of the lats. So realize which muscle you actually want to train and then act accordingly in terms of the biomechanics of the movement. Alright, and the next exercise is the low row. Now, if you tend to notice that the dumbbell rows are too hard to perform in this manner, a great exercise to get the hang of isolating the lats is the low row. Now, you should focus on sitting as upright as possible, crunching your abs, minimizing spinal lordosis, which is the arching of the lower back, and purely focusing on pulling the weight with the lats. Now, the same as for the dumbbell rows, this will require you to pull the weight more towards the hip area, or at the very least to the lower part of your abdomen. Again, do your best to keep scapular retraction or even thoracic extension out of the movement. These are the things that happen very often while performing any kind of rowing movement that will shift the tension more towards the traps, since those are one of the main functions of that particular muscle. Now, if you want to start throwing in some of these techniques, then again, be sure to lighten the weights, since you're solely utilizing the function of the lats. You're not allowing to let other functions take over the tension, so you'll have to stay extremely tight. These are techniques that you can use as a pre-activation method, as a finisher after your normal back movements, or as a separate training day in order to get the most out of your lat development to create a wider back. Alright, and that is all for this video, guys. I sincerely hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to smash the like button because it really helps out the channel grow. Comment down below and subscribe to the channel for so much more content coming really soon. I'm out, guys, and peace out. See you in the next one.